Hi everyone, this is Jay Johnson with dailytexture.com. Today I'm not only introducing a new collection, but I'm introducing a new series I'm working on called Unleashed. And I am introducing the first collection from Unleashed, which is Unleashed 1. And I wanted to take you on a little tour of the collection, and then I'll do a tutorial for you, which will show you how I work with these. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Unpredictable collection, which I released recently, and I know so many of you have enjoyed it. Unleashed is taking it to another level. This is like the Unpredictable collection on steroids. These are watercolors, and watercolor is not a medium that I have worked with before very often. I have tried over the years, and I've been learning. And so I've been experimenting in the studio. So the Unleashed collections are the results of my experiments. And each collection is featuring one design, but the one design is presented in several different color tones. And Unleashed 1 is the main design and several color tones for a total of 12, which are the same design, but they look different because of the color tones I've chosen to create from the main watercolor scan that I made. And I bought a new scanner too. So I'm really happy with that because it presents things very accurately as to how I've painted them. And I don't have to do a lot of editing to these before I can release them to you. So let's go through this collection, Unleashed 1. It's, like I said, one design. This is the main design, the main painting. And then I've made it in 12 color tones. And I've also included a mask. And I'm going to show you how you can work with that mask. And this is a sampling of all of the colors in the collection, in this first collection. Tried to keep them kind of earthy and neutral because I do a lot of animals and birds and wildlife. I like a lot, excuse me, I like a lot of natural tones. The red one is a little brighter. That's the main painting. And then these are all the color tones I've created from that main painting to create, for different types of images. And this is the mask right here, which is also presented as a bonus with the collection. And each collection will contain one mask. Okay, like I said, this is the red one. This is the first painting. This is the original painting right here. And then these are the color tones I have made from this original painting, which will make it suitable for a lot of different images. And I'm going to show you how these work when choosing which one to use with your image, how you can just drop them in underneath after you do your masking and actually find one that fits your image the best. So we have a lot of natural color tones here. And then we have the mask. And like I said, I'm going to show you how to use this too. These masks don't have to, the mask here and all the masks with each collection do not have to be used with the collection. These masks can be used for other creations that you do with the other texture collections if you want to create something a little different and interesting. But we'll go over that at the end. And this is the little guy I'm going to do a tutorial with, this little hummingbird. So if you hang on just a second and let me get my software open, I'll be right back with you to start the tutorial. Okay, I'm back. I'm in Corel Paintshop Pro, a really old version that I love to use because it's very nice and simple. And this is the image that I'm going to work with today. So I'm going to, as I normally work in Photo FX Lab, that's where I'm going to go. I have it installed here as a plugin. Under the plugins, see, I have all the Topaz plugins installed, but Photo FX Lab is the main one that runs all the other ones. And that's where I like to go because then I can access anything. So in a second here, it should open. There we go. And we're going to work with this little guy. And it is a male. It is a ruby red-throated hummingbird, but it doesn't have the red throat yet because it is a juvenile male. And it has the little spots here. And it has a little dot of red, which you can't really see because of the way he's turned. Let me get my screen adjusted just a little bit here. And like I said, I'm in Photo FX Lab. So this is the main image. I like to work with my subjects turned the other way. So I am going to go to Tools, Rotate, and I'm going to flip it sideways. So now he's turned the other way. My main goal is to get the focus on the bird in a fun and exciting way and get rid of this feeder. Just use the feeder to draw them in. I'm going to pick one of the textures. I'm going to pick the red one, even though I probably won't use the red one. And I'm going to lower the opacity of that just to see how I can position my bird layer. I'm going to make the bird layer, I'm going to make him a little bigger and move him around, kind of decide where I want to position him here. I love the splash of this collection. I'd like to see him coming out of that. Okay, I've got him arranged like I want. Let's put him on top. Now I'm going to do a little work to him. I'm going to denoise him. He's got a lot of noise in the background because I end up always shooting in low light. And I always check the eye to make sure that the denoise process doesn't remove the detail in the eye. I'm going to click OK and accept that down on the bottom of the screen, which I don't think you can see on the video. This takes a little while, this denoise process. All right, now he's denoised, and I'm going to pump up his clarity a little. So I'm going into Topaz Clarity, and I love under the Nature tab up here, I love Fur and Feathers. And I have Fur and Feathers 1 and 2. 2 adds a little bit more color, which I don't think I need right now. Everything looks pretty good with that. It just boosted him up a little bit, so I'm going to click OK down at the bottom. All right, now I'm ready to start masking away to reveal the texture underneath. Now, I go to the Masking tab up here on the top right. I have brush value all the way to the left, which means I'm going to have a very strong brush taking everything away. Flow is all the way to the right. That's like opacity. I have a fairly large brush size. I'm going to reduce that because I'm going to go around his edges first. I'm going to move this edge aware, which I usually leave on the left, and it makes for a very soft edge like that. I mean a strong edge that'll take away everything. If you move it this way, it'll pick up on the contrast of your image and it'll go right alongside those edges without going over things. So a lot of times with these birds, with the feathers and everything and the beaks, I like to go with the edge aware all the way to the right. That way I can go right along the edge and make sure to get an accurate mask of that. Later, if I want to go over it some, I can, but right now I'm just trying to get a very accurate mask. So by having the edge aware to the right, it just picks up and you just go along the edge and it won't go over it in most cases. So if there's not enough contrast, it sometimes will. Like right here, there's not a whole lot of contrast right there. All right, now I've gone around him. I'm looking at the feet here. I want to go in between those feet. So I'm going to blow up the size so I can see. And I'm going to make a really small brush, like probably a 1. And I'm just going to go in here to get in between those toes. I want his little toes showing, unless I decide to go over them later. There we go. So now I have a pretty accurate mask around him. Now I'm going to mask away the whole rest of the background. At this point, I'm going to move edge aware away. To the left, because I don't want edge aware to be working now, because if it picks up on any little detail in the background that stands out, it's not going to mask it properly. Still leaving my flow all the way to the right. I'm going to go with a little bit bigger brush and work my way out from where I've already masked. And then as I get farther away from him, I'll go with an even bigger brush. I really hadn't started using the Edge Aware tool until just recently. I have Topaz Remask, but I usually don't need a real accurate mask, so I'm not real interested in using that with my subjects. But the Edge Aware does a nice job to just get it mostly accurate for the beginning stages. Okay, now I've gone around him once, and I'm going to go around him again with an even bigger brush and get rid of the rest of this background. I'm going to go all the way around. And getting rid of this feeder. We don't want that feeder in there. All right. So now I have it totally masked away. And at this point, I would begin going around the edges with a small brush and a lower opacity to actually brush some of this texture over him. But I don't like the red, which is why I've given you different color tones. So I can go to the bottom layer where the red is, and I can actually open up a few of the other ones to see how they may look with the subject. I'm just trying to pick one I think might look right. I have a feeling the green is a possibility. Since he's got a lot of green in him, that one works pretty good. Let's see. I don't think I opened this one. I like this one too. I don't like this one, or the red one, so I'm going to get rid of those. So I have the green open, and then I have this tan color one open. And I think what I'm going to do is lower the opacity on the tan layer. See, this is full green, but with the tan layer on top and an opacity lowered on that, I can sort of keep the green but also give it a little bit more golden hue, like maybe about 40%. Now I can go back to him, and I can see right here I have some little areas where things aren't masked away good. So keeping the flow all the way up, I'm going to try to get in these areas where I'm seeing it on the black right here, because I want to make sure there. You can leave part of the background showing, but I just don't. I want to try it without any of the background showing. And then get down here around this tail. So now I have a pretty accurate mask of the bird. I'm going to decide now where I want him exactly. I'm going to grab my move tool on the tools, and I'm going to move him maybe up this way some more so you can see his head a little better. Now, as you can see, I still have some more masking to do since I moved him. I can see a few areas right here around his head I need to get rid of. And then obviously this whole side right here, since I moved him, it put some of those edges in there, so I want to get rid of all of that. Now, that looks much better. Now I'm going to lower the brush, I'm going to lower the flow, and I'm actually going to start brushing away some of his edges of his body to bring the texture right in with him, so he can kind of become one with it. I don't want to lose his shape, but I do like to go around his edges so they're not so harsh. and actually mask some of those away to make him become one with that textured background. Just kind of softens everything up around those edges so it's not so harsh. Now I'm going to go with a bigger brush and maybe tap right here, a little smaller than that, just to bring some of that over that wing. Hummingbird's wings are transparent, so by actually bringing some of that through, it's almost like he's flying directly over that. I'm going to bring some of that back. I got a little too much of it. Gone. Now, like I said, if I wanted to bring some of the background back like that, I could. I don't want to, so I'm going to undo that. But I am still working on tying him in with this texture. Bring a little bit over the feet. I want to show the feet, but they don't need to be striking or sharp like that. And a little over the beak, but not too much, so I'm going to go back the other way on the beak with a very tiny brush. Get in there and get that beak sharp. All right, now I have to decide what I want to do with him from here. I like the way this is looking. I'm going to merge everything at this point and then play with some other things. So I'm going to click from stack, which is going to merge everything. It's also going to show me if I have any weird masking areas that I didn't get. No, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to duplicate this so I don't mess it up. First thing I'm going to do is try to maybe work on his coloring and clarity a little bit. I may try to bring this tan texture on top. Now that's at a normal low opacity. Let's try a different layer mode. Soft light kind of pumps everything up, but it's a little too much. Maybe about 30%. See, that just brings a little bit more of the texture and color tone into the bird. I like that. I might want to brighten this particular texture. So I can go to exposure and I can brighten it by raising the exposure up. So that's before, that's after. Okay, I like that. Maybe reduce that just a tiny bit, maybe down to about 25. There. I like that. So I'm going to merge all that. Okay, I'm going to duplicate the merged layer again, and I'm going to go to Topaz Clarity. And I'm going to boost the clarity of the whole image up, but I'm going to only show that on the bird. I want this to be very sharp right here. See, this is before, this is after. It's a very subtle difference. It's boosting the clarity everywhere else, which I don't want, but I want this section right here really sharp. So I'm going to accept this. Let that finish processing. Okay, so now that's with the boosted clarity, but I'm going to put a mask over the whole thing. I'm going to click invert, which takes everything I just did on that layer away, but I'm going to mask it back at full opacity on this area of the bird, because this is the area I want the sharpest, right here. And I'm going to go to the beak too. Like so. So now you can see this little mask is the beak and the head and the upper body. So this is before, and this is after. And it's very subtle, but it just pops up his details just a little bit more. So I'm going to merge that. This is turning into a really fun design. I think he may look, though, like he's laying too much on top of the texture. So I may try something else here. Let me open up this one here that's real light and see what I can do with this. I'm going to play with some layer modes. I'm thinking. Let me go back to soft light. I like the way it's brightening that up at about 50%. But I like that for the upper layer, maybe about 30%, because when I'm unsure, I like to stay in the 30% range. Okay, let me turn that off for now. Let me go back to the bird, and I'm going to open up the green one again. But this time I'm going to put the bird on top of it. And I'm going to actually mask away some of this bird layer and bring in some of that green layer. Going with a low flow and a big brush. I want to just see if I can, let me go with a little higher flow than that. See if I can actually bring some of this texture into the bird a little bit more. So it doesn't look so on top of it. There we go. Now let's turn that top lighter color texture layer back on. Yeah, I like that. I might have obliterated this wing too much, so I'm going to go back to the bird layer, go back the other way, and get on that, bring back some of that wing right there. Just so it's not so harsh right there. Whoops. See, okay, this is the before, and he looks like he's just right on top. Then I brought the green layer underneath, and I masked some of him away. Oops. Which brings him in with the texture more. I like these feathers right here to stay the way they are. So I think I'm going to bring back some of those right here. And this is just very little subtle adjustments that may not bother anybody else, but they're things that stand out to me. And a little bit more brought back right there. There we go. I'm liking that. Okay, from stack again. I've got quite an interesting piece here. It's a very exciting piece. He had a lot of energy going on when he was flying around that feeder. He was very distraught that I was taking his picture. So he kept coming in and out, and just really wild bird. And it was quite fun. And that's kind of what I'm after here to portray and just get a really different and exciting look. Okay, this is the merged copy, which I'm going to duplicate again. I do that a lot. Now at this point I can decide if I like him as is or if I want to take this even further. And if you have Topaz Impression, you can go into Topaz Impression and actually create a whole different kind of painterly look than what I've got going on here, to really create your own unique take on things. So you don't have to use these textures exactly as I have them. And I'm just going to go through. I have a few favorites here in Topaz Impression. Like that gives a whole different painterly look. If you want to go impressionistic with it. Like these dreamy ones I've set up, for instance. Dreamy and Dreamy 2. Dreamy 2 is a little bit more watery look with a boost in saturation. This is before and this is after. And you can see how it really softened everything. So you could choose that if you wanted a softer look, and then you could mask away this particular dreamy layer and bring back some of his detail right here. But notice how it takes the splashes and the stuff behind, and it really makes it all run together to make it look real watery. So, that's a possibility. I have several different presets I've set up. This is one of my favorites I use for the animals and birds a lot. And I have different sizes. Let's see here. A real thick impressionistic. So you can come up with, oh, isn't that fun? Doesn't show the detail of the eye enough, but you could go with a smaller brush stroke, which I do here in the different presets. And I usually blend, I have a large, a medium, and a small in most presets I set up that I save myself. That way I can do a background in a large and keep the looseness where I want it. I can bring in some medium strokes on a body, and then I can bring in the small strokes on the eye on 3 different layers. One of my favorites is Oil Glaze Light, which kind of smooths everything out, gives a little boost of color there, and then Oil Glaze Light 2, which smooths everything out but leaves the color the same. Now I have an Oil Glaze Autumn that I created, and a yellow, and a Simplify one that gives it more of a watery look. It takes away a lot of these speckles here, which is kind of neat. In fact, let me mess with that. I'm going to click OK on that. Okay, now this is on a duplicate layer. That's the original underneath. And then this is the one I just ran that preset on, which softened the speckles up and gave it a little more watery look. But let's say I want to bring back some of the detail in his face from the previous layer, which did not have this impression adjustment. I could do that by going right here and just doing a little masking on this top impression layer to bring back his detail right here where I wanted it, and maybe in the feet, maybe along the edge of his tail, and these feathers right here, in the back of his head. You see my little mask is starting to look like the bird shape. I'm doing it at a low opacity. It's like painting. I like to do things very softly and very subtle and just kind of go along and make it stronger as I go, just like I would if I was painting it. So this is the original layer down here, right here. Then this top one I'm on is the impression layer, which made everything a little more fluid and watery looking and took away a lot of these speckles right here, which may be competing with the pattern on the bird, and I don't want that. So now I've taken those away, which makes the bird stand out just a little bit more. And then I can always also adjust the opacity of the impression layer itself. If I feel it's making it too watery and I want some speckles, I could mask. Sorry about that. Got interrupted by the mail lady and the dog barking at her. So let me see where I was here. I was deciding whether I wanted to lower the opacity on this impression layer, if I wanted the speckles right there with this bird, or if I wanted to keep the impression layer real soft. I like the softness. but I might want a little more interest around these edges. So once again, I'm going to merge from stack. Then I'm going to open up the same texture layer, maybe in a different color. I mean, these things are so, even though it's the same design and they're in different colors, they can create whole new looks just by using a different color. But they can also create different patterns, even though it's one design. So let's see. Let's take this one, which has a little cool tone, but a really bright background. And let's change the layer mode. Oh, that's darkened. Now that's interesting. That adds a lot of interesting speckles, but it's mostly on him. But what if I stretch it out? And see how that just gives a whole different pattern and look to it? I don't like it on him, but I can move it around. I've stretched it out, and I can put those, this is on darken layer mode. I can put those speckles right where I want them. They look real inky using this darken layer mode, and of course you can reduce the opacity. You can also go to saturation. If I don't really like the bluish color, you can bring the saturation down, you can bring it up. Let's see what happens if I mess with some of these colors. There, I warmed it up a little by going to the right on the temperature at the top. It now gives it more brown hues, even though it's a more bluer design. But it's the same texture, it's just resized and moved around and set on darken mode to bring some of those speckles in and splatters in different places. Now, like I said, I don't like it on the bird. And I don't like these right here close to his body. So once again, this is where masking comes into play. And I'm going to mask away this one. Don't like that one. And I'm going to mask away this one right by his body. And you can turn it on and off to see where your speckles are. Maybe lower the flow and just gently soften some of these speckles. I'm just turning it on and off to see what I have where. And if anything's in the way. Well, now how fun is that? Maybe get rid of or soften a few of these around his feet. And I'm on a low opacity or low flow, so just like painting, I'm just gently softening some of these. There. That's pretty cool. So this is before, with the real watery effect I got from Impression, with it masked off the bird to keep his detail. Now I've layered another texture color on top, resized it, changed the color tones up here from the bluer tones to a more warmer tone, which gave more interest down here. And it's kind of neat. So I like that. I'm going to hit from stack. And then I'm going to decide where to go from here after it finishes merging all of these layers. But I have to make sure it merges them correctly, which it did. I don't see, here this layer, I moved it down so much. I wanted to make sure there's no weird line here, which there isn't. So now I have to decide if I want to do anything else to him. I'm liking him pretty much as he is at this point. A lot of times at this point, what I'll do is I'll zoom out and take a look at it from far away. to make sure that I like what I'm seeing, which I do in this case. So now I can bring this back up to fit the screen. His whites look okay. He's pretty sharp. I may sharpen him up a little bit more in Paintshop Pro after I go back in there. But right now, I'm liking this one. This is quite fun. I'm going to click OK and bring this back into Paintshop Pro. And then I'm going to show you how to work with that masking layer. All right, now you see, I'm going to undo it. That's where we started. And now I'm going to redo it. And that's where we've ended up. Now let's say I wanted to do something a little different. And I'm going to show you how to work with this masking. How to apply this mask. Now in Paintshop Pro, which I'm in, the mask is the masking works a little different than it would say in Photoshop. I don't know how to apply a mask in Photoshop, so maybe you can take what I show you here and kind of figure out how to do it in Photoshop, or search on YouTube for some videos on how to apply an existing mask. But I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm going to open up the mask, which is right here. Okay, there's the mask, and here's my bird. Now, of course, I turned my bird around, and the way these masks work, wherever the white is, you're going to see. Wherever the black is, it's going to take it away. Because his face and beak is right here, I might want to reverse this mask. Mirror image is what I'm looking to do. Because now his face and beak will be over here in the white area, which is what I want, because I want his face and beak to show very well. Okay, I'm going to get on my bird layer. This is, like I said, how I do it in Paintshop Pro. Sorry, I don't use Photoshop, so I don't know how to apply a mask. I'm going to do new mask layer. Well, no, I'm going to duplicate this layer of the image first. I'm going to shut the bottom one off. So now I have a copy that I'm working on, the copy layer. I'm going to do new mask layer from image, because I'm going to choose it from this image over here. So I need to pick that image, which is Unleashed 1 mask. And I'm going to click OK. So now it has masked away the edges. And I'm going to go underneath him, underneath that layer where I applied that mask. I'm going to open up another texture. Let's say I wanted to put that on some paper. So I'll go to the Ultimate Paper Collection and choose a color of paper I might like for him. Let's see. He's got that olive green. I know I have an olive green one in here. This is a huge paper collection. Here's an olive green. May not be exact. Oh, I just saw another one I'd rather use. Let me close this one. I'm going to pick this other one in here as soon as it opens up and shows me the preview. It was this one I think I saw that got my attention. I'm going to choose this one. Okay, now I'm going to copy this particular paper, and then I'm underneath where I've applied his mask. I'm over the background layer, which I duplicated. So this is where I'm going to paste, as a new layer, I'm going to paste that paper in there. Now look at that. Now that is really fun. So if you wanted a totally different look than the original, which was this, you can use this mask and choose a paper color or even another texture. Part of the problem with this is, let me say one other thing. If you wanted to stop right here, you could. But what I like to do is I like to fix the mask first with something underneath it so I can see where I need to be. You see how this has masked away some important detail here. I need to bring that back. Now, in order to do that, I'll need to paint white on the masking layer. So I need to get on the mask layer, and I need to paint white on these areas. So I need to choose white from my color palette, get my paintbrush, and resize it down, get the opacity up. Now let me work on the beak area first. I'm just painting with white on the mask layer. You have to do it on the mask layer or it won't work. To bring back the detail of the beak. I brought back too much there at the tip, so I'm going to come back and just do it very gently. Okay, I'm going to make this one black. And I'm going to switch it so black is the foreground, and I'm going to get right in here along this tip. There we go. Now I'm going to go back and make white the foreground. Still on the masking layer, I'm going to go around his head and get the detail in that eye in there by fixing this mask. And on his head right here. Alright, I kind of like how brought the paper in over the wings and the tail. Let me zoom out so I can look at this. So now his face and his beak is fixed, and that's very clear. And the mask has taken away part of these wings here. I might want to bring back some of that. Now that I've zoomed out, I can see that. So just get in here. And I'm going to go all the way out so I can see where the wing is. There it is, right there. Painting with white. Now I brought back too much of the gold there, so I'm going to come back in. Now I've got a very strong opacity on here, so this might look kind of stupid, but I'm going to fix that. I'm going to go back to the white, and this time I'm going to lower the opacity and make a bigger brush and just kind of tap in here to bring back some of this texture. Like so. So it doesn't look so choppy. Now that right there is kind of fun. If I wanted to change the background color, I could use this mask and apply it, fix my mask with the background underneath it so I can actually see. So if I wanted him on a green background, I could do that. At this point, I could also bring in another paper. If I didn't like this one and I wanted a different color, I could bring in a different one or even another texture. But I usually like to pick the one I'm pretty sure I'm going to use first and put it underneath before I start fixing that mask so it'll blend right. However, if you didn't want a paper under it, notice how when you take the paper off, the paper layer off, you have your masked image right here with a transparent background. That's what all these little checker marks mean, that it's transparent. I could save this right now as a PNG file, which would be great to upload this design for, say, t-shirts or coffee mugs or any product like that where there might be a distinct color changing in the background. Like sometimes people can change the background of their mugs, or they can change the background of the t-shirt. If you have the image uploaded onto that product as a PNG file with the background transparent, it will just take this design of the hummingbird with the splatters and it will put it on whatever color the customer chooses, which, since I do a lot of that kind of product work, that's important to me. So I am going to save this as a PNG file. And choose PNG and save. So then I'll be able to drop this design on a t-shirt. And if I didn't want these particular splatters right along the edge right here, which I don't, I can mask those away. And I'm going to do that by getting on the masking layer, because if you do put it on a t-shirt, you don't want these harsh, whoops, I'm bringing it back. Go back the other way. You don't want these edges harsh. So I'm going to raise this up a little bit. I'm going to turn the green layer on so I can see where I'm at. See, I'm just going to go along these edges and totally get rid of the ones that are actually touching the edge. So when it's placed on a shirt, for instance, you don't want something having a straight line at the edge. So I'm getting rid of the splatters that are specifically on the edges as I go around, masking those away. Trim up that a little better right there, kind of make it look a little more attractive. Maybe just get rid of all of that. Just want to make sure I don't have any splatter running off the edge exactly, because it'll appear as a straight line on, say, a shirt. So I don't have anything touching the edge at this point, except for that little piece right there. And you can make a smaller brush and go in here like this, get in a little tighter in certain areas. None of them, certain ones don't look attractive. You don't want them there. The little speckles, you can just mask them away. And I want to sharpen this edge along this drip right here a little bit. So I'm going to make a small brush and just go in like this and kind of make that come to a little point. Now that's better. I don't see that I have anything touching the edge exactly. There. So now I can turn off the green layer. And once again, I can save this as my PNG, which it's already set to do so. All right, now I'm going to turn the green layer back on, and I'm going to save this one as a JPEG. And this is the edited version. And now I'm going to shut off everything I've done, turn back on the original background, and I'm going to save this one as Topaz. So now I've gotten 3 different designs out of one grouping. And like I said, I reversed that mask layer to position the white where his head was a little bit better. And let me show you something else you can do. Let's turn this mask layer back on. Let's say that I wanted him to be a little smaller inside the mask. I can get on his background layer, which is right under the mask, and get up here to my scaling tool, and I can scale him down, just his layer, not the mask. Let's see how that scaled him down to fit a little better. Now I would have to fix some of this once again with the black and white, to get rid of the white, to paint some white in here to get rid of that. But I could scale him to any size I want, like so. And that could be another PNG file. I'm going to undo that and get back. So now he's back his original size. Let's say I wanted the mask layer to stretch out a little more. I can get on that layer, and using the scaling tool, I can do the same thing. Let me get here where I can see, and I can stretch that mask out if I wanted to, and I can actually move it around. Oops, I got on the wrong layer. Okay, I stretched out the mask layer. Let me move that around like so. See, I moved it over a little bit more. So he's got less splatters over here. So this is before. And we're back to the original now because I hit undo too many times. But you can get on the subject layer or the mask layer, and using your transforming tool, you can resize those and position them exactly where you want. And that will give you an interesting look and change your perspective a little bit as well. So that's how I work with the mask. I usually don't use mask a whole lot unless I'm putting the subject on a product like t-shirts or coffee mugs or pillows, something where some of these websites I work with, the customer can change the color of the background, especially on t-shirts. So by having it as a PNG file just on the front of the shirt, then they can pick whatever color shirt they want, and then the design will be printed on top of that color. But if it only works good if it's a transparent background, and so that's why I use those masks to do things like that where I can make them transparent. But you can also use them as I showed with the different, if you just wanted a whole different background look like a paper, for instance. And these masks that I'm presenting with these packages and the Unleashed packages, the mask can also be used with other work you've already done. It doesn't have to be used with this particular collection. I've already saved all these, so I'm going to get rid of that. Let's say I wanted to open up a piece of art I've already done. So let's go to something I've already done. See, I have masks saved there. Let's say I wanted to put an image on a t-shirt, and I needed a transparent background. And the image, of course, is not transparent. Trying to find a good one here to work with in a finished work that I've already done. Let's say this little blue bird right here. Okay, here's a finished piece of art I've already done, and let's say that I wanted to put this piece of art on a t-shirt. I'm not going to put it on a t-shirt like this because it is a perfect rectangle, which to me looks not so good on a t-shirt. I need to add a mask to him. So this time I'm going to reverse the mask back where it was because he's on this side and this is where the white is. So now I can duplicate his layer, which I always try to remember to do. So I'm on a copy. I'm working on a copy. I haven't disturbed the background. I'm going to shut that layer off, and I'm going to right-click, click New Mask Layer from Image, and I'm going to choose my mask from the list, and boom. Other than masking away the edges right here, where it runs off the edges like I showed you in the previous image, I have an image ready to go on a t-shirt very easily. I can save this as a PNG, which will make it transparent, so this image then can be printed on any color t-shirt or any color pillow or duvet cover. But I would go along like I showed you in the other example and mask away the splatters that are right at the edge, because if you put this on a shirt and you've got a harsh edge right there, it's going to show that like it's cropped out, and you don't want to show that. So I would mask away each of these little splatters that are along the edge to clean up those edges so it does not have a harsh straight edge. And I've fixed the mask on his face a little bit here because some of this is these little white spots. I would paint with white on the mask layer like this to bring back his details in his face. And if you leave them there and they're showing the transparent, they'll pull the color of whatever is being put on through, and which might be okay for some colors, but then you might get some like a bright pink color or something like that behind there that'll poke through the actual subject. But it's fine if it pokes through around here. if that's the color you want in a shirt. But I don't like it messing with the subject because it can make the subject look pretty odd. So you can use these masks that are in these collections with any piece of artwork you've already done. If you want to create a PNG file to drop onto a different background completely, or onto a shirt or a pillow or a duvet cover, whatever you want to create with it. They're very, very versatile. Anyway, that is my introduction to the Unleashed collection, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed the video and found it helpful. This is Unleashed 1 right here. This is the first of many. Each one of these will be one design presented in different color tones, and you can combine these with other textures by dropping them on top in different layer modes like multiply, screen, soft light, overlay, and adjusting opacities. You don't have to use them just by themselves. And like I said, with the mask, you can use that on your other art as well. So they're very, very versatile, and they're very fun because I am having a blast making these things in the studio. And this is really my first big adventure into watercolor. And I didn't know how much fun that watercolor could be until I started with these. And I just hope that you guys have a great time with them too, as far as working with your designs. Once again, thanks for watching. Appreciate every one of you. You guys have a great day and create some beautiful art.